Hi everyone. I did my presentation on illegal immigration, and the reason that I did this is because I assumed that everybody was going to be doing a topic that was about the argument blacks versus whites, so I decided to do something that is still relevant to the time period but bring immigration into it. One of the articles I found, titled "Little is Known About the Illegal Alien Problem," gave some great insights as to some facts that people from this day and age might not know. The government was actually looking for other funds and other ways to deport the illegal aliens that they speak of, because in the year 1975 there was between 12 million, and that is obviously an extremely wide range of numbers, and you can't differentiate because you don't know exactly the amount. But the reason that people were so for the illegal aliens during that time period was because the employers would pay them below minimum wage, and they wouldn't have to have benefits. They didn't have to have breaks, lunches. They didn't have to go home on time. They didn't have to come in on time. They could really pay them under the table and not give them the benefits. And the other problem was during the time period that the illegal immigrants were so powerful, even though they are still today, the government had this not so great idea to put camcorders around where the levels of illegal immigrants were high, so they could monitor the activity. But the fault with that is, how do you know the person on the camera is an illegal immigrant if they don't have any documentation shown on the camera? Which is why I think the camcorder situation is not a good one. And here's just some pictures from the article just to show what it was like during that time period. The second article that I read was called "Who's the New Illegal Alien?" and it just gave some facts that would be new to you guys, and they were new to me. The illegal aliens worked over 60 hours a week, and their pay was not even $100. That right there is one of the number one reasons why the illegal aliens were illegal. They did not have to be paid accordingly. At that time, there were 2 million illegal aliens in the US, and majority, 700,000 of them, were in New York City. New York City now, as we know, is one of the most populated areas ever in the US, and people coming and going throughout the city every single day. Not everyone's going to be properly documented, maybe not even today, but back then it was much worse. And here is some pictures of the article from when it was published. Another article that I found that was interesting was called "A Flood of Illegal Aliens Enters US via Kennedy." I'm sure everybody knows John F. Kennedy Airport, or JFK. I found this article, out of all of the ones that I reported on, interesting because it showed another perspective besides just the general public to the illegal immigrant situation. The illegal immigrants would come through the airport during this time period because it would be easy access. They would show up with no documents that would entitle them to be getting on the plane. They would either be fake documents or not the correct documents. But the problem was, some of them were allowed on the plane, and the ones that were had to go to a court hearing because they were arrested, and truth be told, more than 2/3 of the illegals did not show up to the court hearing in fear of being caught by government officials. But the people that felt most hurt by the illegals coming onto the airlines were the airlines themselves, because per illegal alien, it costed $3,000 per person that the airline had to pay for that inconvenience. And they actually filed a lawsuit against the Immigration and Naturalization Service over the so-called rules, because they did not feel it was necessary, and they did not feel it was their fault that they had to be fined. And here's just some pictures from the article when it was published. The last article from that time period that I found was called U.S. Titans Entry Rules. It wasn't the most exciting, but it gave just facts about how they were trying to cut back on the illegal aliens entering the U.S. They had this thing called a Golden Door during the 1970s that gave the Caribbean citizens access to the U.S., and they got rid of it. And after that happened, the U.S. Visitors Rule was born, and the U.S. Visitors Rule, in a nutshell, was that citizens of Barbados, Trinidad, Tobago, Jamaica, Grenada, and the French and Netherlands Caribbean islands were not allowed to enter the U.S. anymore, or with documentation at least, if it was improper. But the U.S. citizens that wanted to enter those countries didn't even need a passport to go, or proper documentation if it was valid or not. They just had the double standard of the time, and they were allowed to go into the countries, which of course isn't fair, but at the same time you have to think of, well, the illegal aliens are coming here, taking jobs, not going to school, while the legal people here are going to school and getting the jobs, and they might even be being paid less. And here is just some pictures from the article. And the article that I found for the current day was called "The Movement to Abolish ICE is Heating Up and Going Mainstream." I found this article extremely interesting because it gave direct quotes from people involved with the illegal immigration argument, and it just goes to show that ICE, it definitely takes advantage of its job. Senator Elizabeth Warren stated that the president's deeply immoral actions have made it obvious that we need to rebuild our immigration system. Obviously, this is not a debate about the president of the United States currently, but I firmly believe that the president needs to watch what he says and watch what he does, because he is on radar 24/7, and he will be criticized for absolutely everything that he says and does. And I think that takes into accountability the problems that the nation is facing. The other one that stood out to me the most was Hartford City Councilwoman Wilda Liz Bermudez, who is a part of the Working Families Party. She stated her own opinion that said the visceral nature of reporting from the border during the height of the family separation crisis pushed the movement toward a tipping point. If none of you are familiar with the family separation crisis, families were being separated at the border. If half were illegal, half were not, mothers trying to save their children, families trying to stay together, and they were literally being torn apart with each other by ICE, some not having seen each other for years, months, as small as days, but any family being torn apart is not correct, and it goes to show that government officials want to abolish ICE because they do still take advantage to this day of their authority. And here is some tweets from the article that just goes to show how many people are against ICE and what they stand for. And that is it. Thank you.